There is no manual to Earth. Imagine what it must have been like to be some of the first human beings on Earth. You wind up on this planet and you look around for a manual. Like, okay, we're here. Where's the manual? So I think in our lifetimes, we've always known of when you purchase a product, there's always been an instruction manual. Or if you've gone on a tour or were a tourist or traveled the world, there was always brochures. There's always been an encyclopedia. There's always been a dictionary throughout our entire lives. But imagine arriving here, being the first people, looking around. I mean, you wouldn't know of what a manual was in the first place, but just imagine not seeing, not having a manual, not knowing, not having any prior knowledge that we've all inherited. Throughout our lives, we've inherited all of the knowledge of those that came before us. But at some point, there was none. So imagine in a time with no science, imagine in a time with no religion. Just imagine being some of the first people. And I suppose it'll be like that for, let's say planets do exist and let's say space travel is possible. There will be original inhabitants on these other planets, but even them will still benefit from the knowledge of how to collect information, how we collected information and wrote books and stored and have even a language, because the original people didn't even have a language to write down with. So imagine, so even as the explorers go out and settle new worlds, they'll have the benefit of all that we have had. But there's no instruction manual. There's no instruction manual. Some may say, the Bible's an instruction manual, but it's kind of like the instruction manual on how to behave. It's not really the instruction manual to, here are some plants, here's how they work. All of our knowledge of that from science is from people making best guesses of their experiments and experimenting on things. And for the most part, they've measured things, they've observed things, but they don't really know for absolute sure what the intended purpose that the designer of reality did to make all of this. Like these plants here, you could find a landscaper, a botanist, a farmer, and he'll tell you about the plant, but he'll tell you from his observations. He won't know for sure. We're just taking someone else's word for it. So imagine just these plants. You talk to a farmer about it. They'll give you their interpretation. You can talk to scientists, botanists, and they're going to tell you the functions of the plant, how it works, what they've observed, put water on it, what kind of soil, the nutrients, different fertilizers, ways to make it grow faster. All those things they could tell you about. They could even tell you how they've observed how the leaves grow differently throughout the seasons, how the weather affects it. You get the idea. But the real purpose of roots, the real purpose of stems and leaves, we're making a wild guess as to what everything, and this is, in this example is just the plant, but we could take some of these trees, these palm trees, they have coconuts. We don't know the purpose of a coconut. We don't even know the purpose of strawberries and berries in general, things that grow on trees. We think it's that the designer must have made it for us to consume or for the squirrels to consume, but we really don't know what its intended purpose is. Same with seeds, same with everything natural, same with rocks and mountains. The rocks, and here's the other funny part is, if you subscribe to the simulation theory that we're in some kind of a video game, there was things that were pre-built into the game. Like, for instance, if you're in any video game, like an actual video game you play on a console, there's an environment that comes with it. Buildings, but in our environment, there's hills and there are mountains, lakes, well, oceans, a bunch of natural structures that all were created. They weren't created, they all came with the game. They came with the game. Even the animals came with the game. The sand came with the game. The salt came with the game. The periodic table of elements, while not called by that name, came with the game. So so a lot of stuff was pre-built in. Oh, the laws of physics were built in. Obviously, you'll have a physics engine with a video game, as we do. We have our own physics engine. Things drop at a constant rate. Let's try it here. And there's different factors built in. So we have this leave, and it's going to fall with some form of wind resistance, which is kind of cool. All the different factors involved. And then we could take something slightly more dense like this, and we can watch it drop. And sure, you've seen things drop your whole life, but how it drops was programmed in the game. And I don't know if people appreciate the programming constants that were put in, thermodynamic rules. And not only are they constants, but they have dynamic features to them. So as it's not just one variable, meaning elevation may affect something, barometer, and even the barometer is something we've kind of detected and identified. Same with elevation. I mean, elevation exists, but humans are the ones that identified that there's different elevations. There was no manual. We created the manual. Human beings created the manual. And we go about our daily lives as if we have it all figured out, but we have everything. Absolutely everything is a best guess. Except maybe the maths, but we invented the maths. The math didn't come with the world. We created the math. Which is another funny part. It seems like math is eternal and everlasting, but it was made by man. So the math was made by man, the science was made by man, the religion was made by man. Everything was made by man. There is no manual. There is no truth. We were just placed here in this world, and we're making the best guess as to what this environment is actually all about. There's really good builders out there, great architects. There's civilization's phenomenal, skyscrapers, streets and roads, plumbing, telephone wires, the internet. I'm not taking anything away from mankind's ingenuity, although things like the internet, you kind of wonder how the heck did mankind figure out that without some kind of external existence, whether it was aliens, demons, angels, or God himself intervening and offering the knowledge to man. Because to send light through a wire and have it turn into something on your monitor, I don't know anybody that knew how to invent that. I know how people know how to program it, but to conceive all the concepts of computing is far out. I mean, maybe I just don't know enough really intelligent people to believe it, but programming languages, when you look at it, low level, high level, mid level, machine level, complex stuff, dude. But it's all math. Everything is math. But the math was made by man, at least we think. You know, maybe Pythagoras and Euclid weren't actually normal human beings like you and I. Maybe they were some special kind of X-Men. Regardless, question reality, there is no manual. No manual came with the earth. There's man-made manuals. But when the first people got here, they were just like in the movie Maze Runner. They all wound up in the glade. They all just showed up there one day. And they're like, well, how did you get here? And nobody knew. What the heck is a plant? What is a plant? And I'm about to water it. I'm putting water on the plant. This thing is alive. This is a living thing. I don't know if you'd call a plant a creature. It's a plant. But it's alive. It's alive. It's alive. Hands. 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 You know, I haven't heard about fingerprints in a long time. And the lines in our hands. These used to be like topics I used to hear about all the time.
And I haven't heard about fingerprints and lines in your hand. We really don't know what these lines are about. So all these theories of lifelines and all these things, but hands, fingernails, 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 fingernails.
When people begin to see reality as an obstacle course or a maze that's nearly impossible to escape, and we remove philosophy, religion, and science from clouding our judgment with emotion-based declarations of the glory of God, and get our minds to think more like, all right, we're in this maze obstacle course, how are we going to get out of this thing? I think then, looking at it from an obstacle course theory, you'll see a lot more clear thinking. Because right now, we all think we're in God's great glory of this planet. It's miraculous, and it is all that. But what if it's a maze, an obstacle course?
Knuckles. These knuckles allow the hand to move.
And I mean, I'll do a video, like a thought-out video on Maze Runner when I watch it again, but from what I remember, Maze Runner, the sun's really bright. In Maze Runner, everybody showed up in the glade, and nobody had a recollection of how they got there. So everybody was kind of piecing together what they remember, but they really didn't remember much. And then each day, new people showed up, or not each day, but like it was some kind of interval where they would receive a new person from that thing that come up from the ground. So people would show up just like on Earth. Like none of us really know how we got here, where we were before we got here. We were born through this really strange process where prior to that, we were able to breathe amniotic fluid, but then as soon as we hit oxygen, we had to breathe oxygen. It's pretty weird. But then so that's how we all got here, through a really strange birth process. And then new people show up all the time. New gamers show up all the time. They're brought in through hospitals or home births. And all of us are here in this big gigantic simulation, but none of us know how we got here, what we're doing here. But we all like join, whether it's a religion or a science or some form of construct, onto an explanation of what all this shit, what are we doing here? What are we doing in this world? And none of us really know. It's people that profess that, and actually some people are crazy enough to think that they know, but they really don't. They've convinced themselves of it. There's no manual to Earth. There is, created by man, but no manual came with the Earth. Maybe, maybe it did. Maybe people got here and when they first got here, they're like, oh, there's this book. And suddenly they magically knew the language of the book. Or maybe it was like hieroglyphs. Who knows? But no manual came with Earth that we know of. And therefore everything, I'm repeating the same thing, but it's like I'm telling myself that everything we know is based on our best guess. You know, the Rosetta Stone. Makes you wonder about like the Rosetta Stone. I don't know the full, I only know like the spoken word tale of the Rosetta Stone. I think it was Napoleon found it, and supposedly that helped him decipher all the hieroglyphics, or let the archaeologist decipher the hieroglyphics. I don't know, that seems like a convenient story. I don't know the full thing. Who made the Rosetta Stone? I'm gonna look it up to find out, because that's a pretty good question. Who made this Rosetta Stone that gave us all these languages? I mean, look, I know the answer is probably out there. It's still too bright. I know the answer is probably out there. But without you looking it up online, you've heard of the Rosetta Stone. I'm not talking about the stupid language software that they have out there. I'm talking about the Rosetta Stone, Rosetta Stone. Do you know off the top of your head, from the legends you've learned throughout life, who made the Rosetta Stone? I think Napoleon found it, but what civilization made it? And how did they know? And imagine what that civilization was like, that they thought to make a Rosetta Stone, like literally the Rosetta Stone, for future people to find. That's pretty amazing. What other kind of time capsules we're out there. You know, you always hear about time capsules being dug up. Oh yeah, also on and also on Maze Runner, you know, those guys were running the maze every day. They were trying to find, I guess, what the maze is, how to maybe find a way out. The mazes kind of changed each day. And I just wonder if that's representation of the stars at night, the constellations and the patterns the stars move in. Because they move in the same pattern every night. And that to me indicates to me that the sky is not real. You may be so bought into science that you can't not believe that this is all fake and it's a fake sky. But those same stars that were there when you were a kid are still there now, and they're still in the same positions. And they all just go in a circle. But you can believe what you want on that. You're going to debate me on that, and you're going to try to defend. Dude, the question of reality is, see, if you defend your reality, you're doing it wrong. We're trying to ask questions and reconstruct reality. But yeah, so I think the maze that they were in, and they were calculating it. You know, the people in the old days weren't told the fantasy of space. They saw these patterns on the sky, and they figured they'd try to figure out what that's all about. So they didn't know of science fiction and the tales of space yet. So they were trying to make sense of their surroundings. See, us in our time, we've accepted someone else's interpretation. The original people had nothing to base their thoughts on. And so that's what they went on. Because if it is an obstacle course, then we've all been procrastinating, planning our escape. But then again, you look at this nice place, you're like, well, why would you want to escape? It's a beautiful planet. But it's a video game. That's the point of the game, is to escape. So how are we going to escape? Eyeballs. Eyeballs. Eyeballs are not, I mean, they're amazing, they're incredible. I don't think my camera's getting it good right now, but like in my bathroom when I brush my teeth in the morning, I look at my eyes and I'm like, I have eyeballs. I have eyeballs. Look at these eyeballs. They're so amazing. Eyeballs. Eyes. Eyes. How, you know, of course, you just say God or, you know, evolution. But these are really well-designed eyes. These eyeballs are phenomenal. I am so amazed with my eyeballs. Eyeballs are spectacular. I mean, there's such signs of, when I say a creator, I don't mean it from a religious perspective. I mean it like Microsoft did a really good job designing these eyeballs. It's not Microsoft per se, but the design company that created this video game. The eyeballs are just so amazing. Eyeballs. It's hard to unlearn what you have learned, and that's the first step in learning the Force. Anyway, that's this episode of Question Reality. There is no manual to Earth. Only what we've figured out and pass on to each other.